My name is Dominator, and I have been working on a full Pokemon home living dex by catching every Pokemon in their original games while using Pokeballs only. For more info on this challenge, I'd recommend watching this series from the beginning where I explain everything and get the first 2 generations of Pokemon. I'll leave a card for the playlist on screen now. But now we are finally on to Generation 3. This generation took way longer to complete than I initially thought, and that is mainly due to one Pokemon. Well, rather 4 Pokemon, but I will explain that when I get to it. Before we begin, please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. I still have 6 generations to go with this series, and doing those 2 things will let me know you're enjoying the series. Also, comment below if you're attempting a full living dex as well and what generation you're on. One more thing is that I've gotten a lot of comments asking how I keep track of what Pokemon I need to catch for each generation. Get ready to have your minds blown, because what I do is simply log into Pokemon Go, take screenshots of the Pokedex, then in the Photos app, just cross out the Pokemon I've caught. I know it's pretty advanced stuff, but I realized that Pokemon Go only has so many Pokemon available, and the Pokedex on the surface doesn't include gender differences or regional variants, so I will be working on a full list of every Pokemon you need to catch for a living dex to share to you all at a later date. I'm hoping to have it done by the time my Gen 4 living dex video is up, but as soon as I finish it, I'll be sure to link it in the description of all the videos in this series. So here we are, Generation 3. The generation that has normal catch rates and saves Pokeball data moving forward. So no more messing around and no more cheesing this to get some of the legendaries easier. Let's begin. Starting off, we just went from route to route catching Pokemon. So I started out on the earliest route, we caught some Wurmples, and believe it or not, I do need 7 Wurmples to complete the full line. Obviously, I need 1 for each of the evolution line, being Wurmple, Silcoon, Cascoon, Beautifly, and Dustox. But also, Beautifly and Dustox have a gender difference, so I have to get those as well. So here I am catching almost all of the Wurmples. Then we found ourselves a Zigzagoon, which obviously we need 2 of these, but I'm just going to catch Linoon later. Then we move on to the next route, and I catch myself a Lotad. Now, before we continue, let me explain. I do not know all the route names by heart, nor do I care to look them all up because they're all just numbers, so we aren't going to call the routes by their actual numbered names, unless I actually remember them. Then we find ourselves a Poochyena that we catch, which we do need 2 of these, but unfortunately I thought I could catch Mightyena later in this game, so we fly to 4-Tree City and try to find Mightyena, but unfortunately it turns out that's only available in Emerald version, so eventually I have to go back and catch another Poochyena. But we did find Linoon here, so I can catch that to complete the Zigzagoon line. Next we went to the route to the left of Fall Arbor Town and found more Lotads. I was kind of hoping I'd find a Lombre here a little easier, but it turns out it's a lot more rare, so we just caught some more Lotads. We do need 4 of them total, 1 for each evolution, and Ludicolo has a gender difference. I also should explain that I am mainly doing this on my Sapphire copy, so we're getting all of the Sapphire exclusive Pokemon. So here we got a Seviper, and also in this route we found a couple Swablues that we can catch for those lines while finishing off the Lotad line. After that, I didn't want to wait around to finish off the Wurmple line, so I started evolving my Wurmples right then and there to make sure they evolved into the correct Pokemon, and obviously with Victory Road, you essentially just have to KO 1 Pokemon and they start evolving. So here we are getting our first Silcoon. While I was level grinding in Victory Road, I found a couple Loudred, which I do need 1 for Loudred and 1 for Exploud, so I did catch 2 of them. I also found a Makuhita and an Aeron to start off those lines. After catching the Aeron, I found a Hariyama to complete the Makuhita line, and we got another Wurmple to evolve into a Cascoon. So we evolved that Cascoon into a Dustox and evolved one of our Silcoons into Beautifly. I'm not going to show everything, but we did get every part of the Wurmple line on the first try, so we didn't have to go and catch more Wurmples for it, which was pretty convenient with the gender differences. I then went back and caught the second Poochyena after realizing I couldn't find Mightyena in this game. Then I went to the route north of Rustboro City in order to get the Taillow line, but before we did that, we ended up finding a couple Wingles. And in this patch of grass, which you can only get to after you go through Meteor Falls, I should add, you can find Swellow and Taillow. We ended up finding Swellow first and then Taillow, which I think Swellow was actually pretty rare, so that was kind of lucky to find it first. Then I decided to fish for a couple Wailmers using the Super Rod, which we do need 2 of them, and I'm gonna have to evolve 1 of them pretty early on for a very specific reason moving forward. Then I made my way to Petalburg Woods, and this is where I realized that I could find the wild Silcoon and Cascoon, so I didn't have to do all those evolutions, but you know, it's fine. It ended up working out for us anyway. In Petalburg Woods, we found ourselves a Shroomish, which we need 2 of these for the line, and we found a Slackoth, which we need 3 of these for a line. Now, Slackoth is actually pretty rare in here. I think it's like 5%, but we ended up finding 3 of them pretty quickly. Then I went to the route right of Rustboro and ended up getting a Whismur to complete that line, while also finding a Nincada, which we do need only 2 Nincada to complete the line, which if you know how Nincada works, you'll understand why. Then we ended up finding a random 2% Skitty, so that was pretty convenient because normally these things are pretty rare. So I figured because we got that one pretty fast, we would just finish off the line there, and after not too long, we found a second one. Then I went to the route north of Slateport, and we actually need a lot of Pokemon here. We need 4 Gulpins because both Gulpin and Swalot have gender differences. Then we found ourselves a Plusle, and we got an Electrike. I'm only catching 1 Electrike because I know you can catch Manectric later on in the game. And then we found a Minun, which Minun was pretty rare for us, but in Ruby version, it's flipped around where Plusle is the rare one and Minun is the common one. Then we made our way to the route that's right of Mauville and found ourselves a Manectric to complete that line. Then we went over to the route left of Lily Cove to find a Shuppet to start off that line. I will be catching a Banette later, so we only caught 1 this time. Then on Mount Pyre, we found a few Meditites. I ended up catching 4 of these because both Meditite and Medicham have gender differences, but later on I did find 2 Medichams in Victory Road, which I will show the catching of those ones. Then on the route between Mauville and Verdanturf Town, we found a Roselia, which we need 2 of these for the gender difference. Then we found a Marill, which we are going to need for the living dex, but not as a Marill, so we can catch this in an Ultra Ball because it doesn't really matter. Then we found a Volbeat, which Volbeat is more common in Sapphire and Illumise is more common in Ruby. And then we found a second Marill being a male one, which we caught in a Netball. After this, I took my 2 Marills, went to the daycare, and gave one of them a sea incense and put them in the daycare until I got an egg. Then we went to Fiery Path, and here we need 4 Numel because Numel and Camerupt both have gender differences. Along with that, we need a Torkoal, which Torkoal and we go way back. Then we went to the Jagged Pass by Mount Chimney in order to catch 2 Spoink. After that, we went to the desert area to find 3 Trapinch and 3 Cacnea. We need 3 Cacnea because Cacturn has a gender difference. And a Baltoy. We are not catching 2 of them because I can catch Claydol later in the game. We then went to the route that's covered in ash and caught myself a Spinda. Now, I know how you guys are. I get a lot of comments on it. Not sure if it's actually a joke or an actual concern because it's been said a lot, but a lot of you guys seem to think that I need to catch like 4 billion of these things. Well, I hate to break it to you, but Spinda doesn't have a form difference. It's just an algorithmic pattern that's on it. It has nothing to do with a form. So there's only one form of Spinda unless you're playing Pokemon Go. It's just a random pattern that's over Spinda. So we only need to catch 1 Spinda. I know, a bit disappointing. We're not catching 4 billion of these things, but we only need to catch 1 Spinda, and that's all we need for the living dex. Next, we went back to the route to the left of Fall Arbor Town and caught ourselves a Barboach. But after catching Barboach, we went to the back room of Meteor Falls and fished for a Whiscash. And while we were looking for the next Pokemon, our egg decided to hatch, and it hatched into an Azurill. We then found ourselves a few Bagon, which we do need 3 of these for the line, along with a Lunatone, which we do need Solrock, but that's a Ruby exclusive, so we can't get that just yet. Then we went back to the route between Verdanturf and Mauville and fished for a couple Corphish, and then we went to the route to the left of Fortree City and fished on every single tile looking for the elusive Feebas. Now, Feebas isn't actually too hard to find. It's a little time consuming, but you can get it rather quickly. Essentially, you just go from tile to tile across this entire river, fishing on each tile and hoping to find a Feebas. There's 6 Feebas tiles across the river, I believe, and they change randomly as the day passes. So if you have a dead battery, they'll actually stay permanently, but in order to find them, you can use any rod. I preferred the old rod because with the good rod and the super rod, you have to reel in more in order to catch the Pokemon. So the old rod is the most efficient way to just reel in a Pokemon really quickly and then find the Feebas. Feebas will always be a 50% encounter rate on the tile that it appears. You don't have to fish on each tile twice. By the time you go through all 6 tiles, odds are you would have found find at least one that has a Feebas on the first attempt, as opposed to going 2 or 3 attempts. But it didn't take us too long, and once we got over to this tile that was only a little bit farther down, we found our Feebas tile. So then we just caught 3 of them because Milotic has a gender difference. We then decided to switch our rods to the Super Rod in order to get a Carvana. And then we went over to Pacific Town to fish for a Sharpedo. I then decided to go back to Fortree City, and I got blocked by this invisible object, so I decided to use the Devon Scope and find a Kecleon. Now, if you've already gone through all these static encounter Kecleons, you still can find them at a 1% encounter rate in the grass, but this was way faster. I then went to Shoal Cave just north of Moss Deep City in order to find a few Spheal and 2 Snorunt. Now, Snorunt can only be found in one of the bottom rooms of Shoal Cave, and this is based on the time of day. So if it's at a specific time of day, I'll leave the chart on screen now. If it's a specific time of day, you can get the low tide, and then if it's another specific time of day, you get high tide. You can only find Snorunt if it's low tide, and if you have a dead battery, unfortunately, whatever your clock is at is going to stay at that permanently until you fix the battery or start a new save file and change the time yourself. Luckily for us, we have a working battery, and when we went to go for Snorunt, it ended up being low tide anyway. So we caught 2 of these. One of them, luckily, is a female. So moving forward with Generation 4, if I happen to need one for Frostlass, I at least have a female one, so I don't have to try very hard to find another one. Then we decided to go underwater and find a few Clamperl. We need 3 of these for the evolution line. And then after that, we needed to go for Relicanth. Now, there's actually a really useful repel trick for Relicanth, as it's normally a 5%, but you can make it go all the way up to 50%. And we did that to find a Relicanth pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Relicanth is one of those Pokemon that has a gender difference, and on top of that, the gender ratio for a female is 1 in 8. So we were looking for this female Relicanth for a very long time, and just like, this is the repel trick. This took forever, but I ended up finding the female Relicanth, and here's how it went. Chiyu. I wouldn't have come to that conclusion. I've only like encountered Chiyu once, and I like chucked it in my PC, never looked at it again. Yes! Yes, it's a female Relicanth. Let's go. That took so long. And it's got Swift Swim, bro. Oh. That means we can't attack it. That's a lie. We can attack it like a couple times, but we can't attack it that much. Okay, well, we have to catch this Relicanth in green HP with a Pokeball. No way. I can't believe we caught that. Guys, to put it into perspective, we had another Relicanth at 1 HP asleep, and I think it took us like more than 15 balls to catch. So it's over. That took way too long. After that, I went to Evergrande City and fished for a Love Disc. Then I made my way to Sky Pillar, not only to get Rayquaza, but to get a few Pokemon. We did do this little cheesy thing where we saved after going past every like fallen, broken area, so we didn't have to keep redoing it. And we made our way to Rayquaza, but before we do that, we're gonna catch a few of the Pokemon here. We got ourselves a Sableye, a Claydol to complete the line. Also, shout out to GD Puro for the follow. And this is as good as time as ever, so if you're wondering why I have a face cam but there's no audio, we did live stream most of this on my Twitch. You can follow me, linked in the description of all my videos. We then found a wild Altaria, which I already did catch 2 Swablu's, but I figured why not catch the Altaria so I didn't have to evolve one of the Swablu's later. Then we found a Banette to complete that line, and then it was on to Rayquaza, and Rayquaza, being a legendary, being one of the strongest Pokemon ever, such a tough catch. Here's how it went. Well, now is as time as ever to start attacking this thing, I guess. Or start chucking balls at it. Never know. Yeah, number 100, it just kind of worked out like that. It wasn't really planned. There is no way I just caught that in 2 Pokeballs. Are you kidding me? That has to be, there's no way. What was that catch rate? That wasn't even at 1 HP. That was a 1.598%, 1.6% chance to get caught. That was a 1 in like 70 something chance to get caught, right? Or my math wrong? Yeah, 1 in like 75 chance. 73-ish chance, I guess. Yes. When Rayquaza is easier to catch than Bagon, literally Bagon took us like 19 balls to catch when it should have only taken like 3. Rayquaza takes 2 when it should have taken like 100. After catching Rayquaza, we got ourselves an Absol to the right of Fortree City, which was harder to catch than Rayquaza. We then found a Tropius to the left of Fortree City, which again was also harder to catch than Rayquaza. In fact, most Pokemon we are catching was harder to catch than Rayquaza. Then we went back up to Mount Pyre to catch a couple Duskull. Duskull is a lot more common in Ruby, but we still found it. We needed to find Chimecho anyway, and Chimecho is at 2%. It took us quite a while to find the Chimecho, and then this happened. I think False Swipe's gonna be better than... Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I guess we gotta do this again. They really just give the most random Pokemon takedown, don't they? That's so annoying. Like, why would a freaking Bell Chime have takedown? Like, why? Like, I understand, like, a Rhino... or like a freaking dinosaur, but a bell? Then we had to find another Chimecho, and luckily it didn't take us as long to find as the last one, and thankfully I decided to not attack this one, and we caught it rather easily. I then needed to find 3 Ralts to the right of Petalburg City, which Ralts is pretty rare, but you can do a repel trick to make it a little more common, so we were gonna level up a Poochyena in order to get the repel trick to work, and then this happened. We don't even need the repel trick, apparently. That was easy. Okay. Should I swap battle or should I... Oh my gosh. This is a 1% Surskit. No way. Are you kidding me? I was like trying to get an outbreak for this thing and you best believe I'm breeding for the other one. That is so lucky that we found this. Right after the 4% Ralts too. That is crazy. Wakes up turn 1 though. We're gonna breed for the other one, unless we somehow find another one before the other 2 Ralts, but that is so unlikely. In fact, I don't even know if we can when we do the repel trick. That's insane. I can't believe we just randomly found a Surskit. Surskit, anywhere you are in Gen 3 is 1%. You can't, the only way to raise its encounter rate is through an outbreak, but outbreaks only activate when you specifically go to a TV to activate them, which we did not do, so. After catching the full Ralts line and that crazy 1% Surskit randomly, I decided to breed for the second Surskit. Luckily, the Surskit we found was a female, so I was able to breed for it without having to find a Ditto from another game. We then went to Granite Cave and started going for the Rock Smash Nose Pass, which there's not a lot of info on rock smashing for encounters in this game. Apparently, you can repel trick for it. It's a really low encounter rate. Apparently, Illuminate or White Flute does increase the encounter rate. There was a lot of uncertainty going for this, and it ended up taking a very long time to find Nose Pass. While we were looking for the Rock Smash, we found another Aeron to get more towards that line, and then finally, there we go, getting an encounter. It's a nose pass, let's go! After catching the Aeron and the nose pass, I decided to go back to Victory Road to finish off the Aeron line, so we caught a Lairon. Then we had to go to Ruby version to get a bunch of the Ruby exclusives. We got C-Dot first, which we did need 5 of these to complete the line, because Nuzleaf and Shiftry both have gender differences. Luckily, we did find a couple Nuzleafs, so we don't have to, like, evolve more than we have to. Then we found a Zangoose. Then in Meteor Falls, we found a Solrock. Then in Granite Cave, we found a Mawile. And then on the route between Verdant Turf and Mauville, we found an Illumise. Illumise is not a version exclusive. It's just a lot more common in Ruby. It's a 1% in Sapphire, and I just couldn't find one in Sapphire. Then we decided to look for some of those one-time only Pokemon you can pick up on my Ruby version. It turns out we never picked up the Wynot egg that you get from the lady in Lava Ridge Town. And also in the Weather Institute, we did not end up picking up Cast Form, so we ended up getting Cast Form here. Then I decided to check the desert area, and to my surprise, I never picked up the fossils on this game as well, so we grabbed a root fossil and quickly restored it to a Lileep. Then we ended up hatching our Wynot egg, and at this point we needed a Wailord, so I traded my Wailmer over to my Spanish Emerald copy, and I mass fed it a bunch of rare candies that I duplicated until it was level 40 to evolve it into a Wailord. And at this point we needed to do some reading of Braille. On stream we had a little Braille guide so we could read what these messages said, and the first one told me to dig here. Then on this platform it tells you first comes Relicanth, last comes Wailord, so we have Wailord in the back of our party and Relicanth in the front, and then something crazy happened. We then go back to the desert area, and there's a little cave open with some more Braille inside, and this one tells you to go right, down, and use strength, so that's exactly what we did. Open up the room and found ourselves Regirock. Let's go, we did it! That wasn't bad at all. That was probably like a little more than, it was probably like around 50 balls, which isn't bad at all. Then we went to the route south of Petalburg City and surfed until we found another one of these caves where we found more Braille. If anyone knows how this works, you'll understand why I'm gonna go on a break. But just in case anyone needs to know, here's the guide, and I will be right back. That's crazy that you can actually see my like reflection back there when I'm walking in my room through the Game Boy screen. But the door opened, let's go! I forget, how long did that take? I actually don't recall how long it's supposed to take. All right, here we go. So after 44 balls, it's like a 50% chance to catch. Oh my gosh, we got it. Yes. I was gonna say, I'm like, I swear we've already chucked like 30 balls this time. Oh, that was a tough one. That was a tough one. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about doing Registeel today, but I did not expect that to take. That took about 45 minutes to get caught, so we're not gonna go for Registeel just yet. Then off stream, I decided to load up one of my Emerald copies and grab the Claw Fossil from the Mirage Tower. Then after that, went to the Digging Maniac's house and picked up the second Root Fossil I needed and restored both of these. I did have to nickname these ones because I'm using a Spanish copy of Emerald, and unfortunately, I think it counts these as like Spanish characters. So even though it uses the same characters as English, they will not adjust the names accordingly when I send them up. So it won't do proper capitals. And if they evolve, they won't change their name to the correct Pokemon. So yeah, we had to name this one Anorith and the other one Laleep with proper capitals. I then, after discovering you could find Medicham in Victory Road, caught 2 Medichams for the gender difference, and then played through a bit more of my Ruby copy and found Groudon. That was so easy. That only took like 15 balls, man. That was definitely faster than Regirock. That's the not as fast as Rayquaza though, but we'll take it. After this, I wanted to catch some more legendaries, so I decided to go for Latias and Latios. First one's Latios. My strategy for this was just to go to the route north of Slateport and go in and out of the bike path with a repel trick going so I can find Latios the first time. After finding Latios the first time, you can track it in your DEX, and I would just go in and out of the bike route building until it was in my same area. And then I would just walk in the grass until I found Latios. Then I brought Latios down to 1 HP and put it to sleep, and then ran from it and saved, just so that moving forward, every time we encounter Latios, it'll always start at 1 HP and asleep, so we can just chuck Pokeballs at it, which worked really well. It did not take us long to catch Latios. Dude, these legendaries are so easy. That took 15 minutes. Like, it sounds like a long time, but I think 10 of those minutes was finding Latios. Okay, well. The only one that sucked so far is Regice. Everything else has been pretty darn easy. Then I did the exact same strategy for Latias. Oh my gosh, these are so easy, man. Okay, that one took like a decent amount of more Pokeballs than Latios, but what was nice about it is that it stayed asleep like almost 4 to 5 turns every time, and it allowed me to like throw the balls more. So that's great. And because this is Spanish, we have to name it the proper capitalization. After that, we decided to finish off the Regis and went to the route to the right of Four Tree City and found some more Braille that says something along the lines of go into the center and reach for the sky, which means to use fly in the center of the room. And we found Registeel. And they were over here hatching like shinies left and right, getting like millions of Stardust. And it was just frustrating that like even though Hoenn Tour was free, I don't think it's fair that I don't even get the option to like buy something like that that would give me that bonus, you know? What do you mean it's just like Regice? What do you mean it's just like Regice? Dude, I knew as soon as I read your chat that this was gonna get caught when I saw it shaking. All right, 132. After catching Registeel, I wanted to hatch this final Surskit to complete that line. Then after that, I loaded up my Emerald copy, and in Emerald version, you can get both Groudon and Kyogre after beating the Elite Four by going to the Weather Institute and talking to the scientist. He'll tell you something's going on a specific route. It's either a drought or intense rain. And for this, we went for the intense rain because we already caught Groudon. We found this little deep patch on the route and used dive and found this special cave that Kyogre dwells in. And Kyogre, unfortunately, has a damaging move that deals recoil damage, but luckily, Groudon and Kyogre's catch rate is a little better than most other legendaries, so this is how that went. And I'm talking like low catch rate legendaries. Like I'm not gonna count Shaman because Shaman, like, that's not gonna be hard to catch. And we got the Kyogre. Okay, it was easy to catch because that did not. I took a while, but in terms of the amount of balls we needed to throw at it, it wasn't that bad. It just was having to keep weakening it and then like keep putting it to sleep and keep healing because it was way too powerful. It had double edge and all that stuff, but you know, we're chilling. Then on the same Emerald copy, I went and checked to see if I had Beldum from Steven. I did not, so I picked up the first Beldum of 3 that we need. I then found my way back to Mirage Tower on my other Spanish copy and got another Claw fossil to complete all of those fossils, and we quickly restored it. Now this one I had to name Armaldo because this was the one we were going to evolve. Then on my other Emerald copy, I ended up picking up the second Beldum, which I did name Metang because that one's going to stay as the Metang. And at this point, we needed to get the starters, so we started a new save file of Pokemon Ruby. We picked our first starter being a Torchic. Then we got the Pokedex. After getting the Pokedex, I was able to get a very special Pokemon. So here's how this went. So I believe we turned the game off. And now, okay. Jirachi special gift. There's a reflection of me. Waiting for these little animations to go off. I don't know if I have to hit anything on the Game Boy, but it should like auto start doing a thing. Yeah. I think it just does this automatically. There's a little fancy animation of Jirachi displaying. But it's okay, you guys, once the video's out, you'll be able to see it. It really gives me Mario Party 3 vibes with like the star coming up. It's very, very strange. Alright, that's it. That's all I gotta record on that. And we got Jirachi. Please take good care of it. Please turn off the power of your Game Boy. Cool. Now imagine if this Jirachi is shiny. How crazy would that be? It's not. Timid nature though, pretty good. After getting Jirachi and Torchic, we traded them off, started the save file over, and got some more Torchics. We did need 6 Torchics as the full Torchic line has a gender difference, and it does have the 1-in-8 gender ratio. So for the females, we just saved before encountering the Torchic and reset until we got a female one. It actually got it first try on the first one, and it didn't take us too long to get the other ones. Then we did the same thing for Trico, but there's no gender difference for Trico, so we just need 3 of those. And the same thing for Mudkip. Just like Trico, there's only 3 of them that we need. And then we evolved Nincada into Ninjask to get another special Pokemon. For those who don't know, if you have a spare slot in your party and a spare Pokeball, if you evolve a Nincada into Ninjask, you get a Shedinja with it. So there's our Shedinja. And at this point, we needed to get Deoxys. Now, Deoxys is the Pokemon that caused me a lot of issues. So let me give you a rundown of how we did this. So we are in Emerald, and to start, we traded a 4% Ralts for a Seedot. Then we traded a 1% Volbeat for a Plusle. We then duplicated these Plusles and Seedots a bunch. We gave the Seedots some specific EVs and put them in this order in our second box. We then brought a Pokemon down to 1 HP. The easiest way to do this is with a Banette using Curse 2 times. Then we did some goofy shenanigans with a Palmeg Berry in order to get both of our Pokemon in our party to be fainted. And then we got this special glitch question mark Pokemon, which if we do this really weird scrolling thing with the Banette and going through our party, it does a corruption and we get a bunch of bad eggs, and sometimes on occasion we get a regular egg. If we get the regular egg, we just rinse and repeat, and we can essentially get a bunch of random Pokemon like this. I got this special question mark Pokemon that allows me to duplicate Pokemon very quickly, which just helps us finish this process a little faster. This is a very tedious process. We then did a few more corruptions, got ourselves a Caterpie that is holding the Aurora ticket, which is the event item you need for Deoxys, and a special glitch Pokemon along with a glitch Dugong. After this, we have to battle the entire level 100 battle pyramid. Once we beat the level 100 battle pyramid, and yes, I'm using this completely busted Dugong through the corruption that I used. After this, we get a glitch Pokemon with a full fainted party and talk to this reporter who gives us this crazy glitch text. And then we go over to Artisan Cave at the Battle Frontier and then find ourselves a special Bad Egg, which has specifically 20 HP. Then we just revive a Pokemon in our party, and then its HP falls for like actually over an hour. This actually takes an hour for the HP to fall all the way down until it lets you do anything. After that, we grab the Aurora ticket from our Caterpie that we had in our box and go to the ferry at Lily Cove and the event has been unlocked. They allow us to go to Birth Island and find Deoxys. We encounter Deoxys by doing this goofy little thing with the triangle until it lets us encounter Deoxys, and then we gotta catch Deoxys. And yeah, that was a pretty long process, but the really unfortunate thing is Deoxys has 4 different forms, and we need to get one of each form. So I had to start a new save file, play through the entire Pokemon Emerald again, and do all of that special Pomeg, berry, glitching, all that stuff that took so long, and we had to do that 4 times to get all 4 Deoxys. So I'm not gonna play all that. You're just gonna watch me catching these Deoxys. While playing through Emerald and setting up this Deoxys encounter, I did check my time. It took me over 20 hours of in-game time, and that's not including all the resetting I had to do to get the glitching to work. This took an extremely long time, and this is why it took way too long for this part of the series to come out. I would argue this is probably the most tedious Pokemon to get. The way I am doing it, I'm doing this all in-game. I'm not using any third-party software, any third-party hardware. I want to make sure I can do this all in-game. Unfortunately, it does require glitching to unlock the events. There's no fully legitimate way to get these Pokemon. But if you want to do this, I do have a full tutorial on my YouTube channel of how to get both Mew and Deoxys through these means. And you have to have a non-English European copy of Emerald. That's the only requirement. And you can just do it all in-game.
Execute this week. See if I get to complete the line. This is on the SpongeBob SP. We've got SpongeBob's whole family in egg form. Oh. I didn't count down. It broke out instantly. Stay.
Okay, so this took me like 20 balls. I reset. I think that was ball number 2 for this. So like 22 balls, 23, something like that. That was easy. Nice. Let's go. I thought I was gonna have to reset because pressure kept getting rid of my spores too fast. That took like 30 some balls, I think. Let's see. All right, how many balls did that take? I had like 67, so it took 34. That's pretty darn good. This is me doing a thumbs up. That took way too long. That took, I think, over 30 minutes. That took like, I don't know, 80 some balls. And now I'm not focused. Cool.
Saving the game immediately.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. And now we have every Pokemon caught in Generation 3, so now it's time to do some evolutions and to send some Pokemon up. Before we do this though, I just want to point out that home compatibility did come out for Scarlet and Violet, so I was finally able to put all my Paldean Tauros and my Paldean Wooper into my home living decks. To start, while I was playing through Emerald 4 times, I picked up the Deep Sea Tooth and the Deep Sea Scale, and I was able to just trade these Clampearls over to evolve them while holding the specific items. Common misconception, a lot of people think that the evolution of Clampearl is based on the gender, like the female one can only evolve into Gorbis and the male one can only evolve into Huntail. This is not true. You can get a female Huntail or a male Gorbis if you want. You just have to trade them over while holding either the Deep Sea Tooth for Huntail or the Deep Sea Scale for Gorbis. It's just like any other trade evolution. Then it was time to send the Pokemon up. So I started off in Pokemon Platinum by migrating Pokemon using a DS, where I just put the Sapphire copy in the bottom slot and then the Platinum copy in the top slot. It gives you the option to migrate. You can only do 6 Pokemon at a time, and unfortunately in the Sinnoh games, you can only do 6 Pokemon every 24 hours. but there is a workaround for this, and I'll explain how. So after migrating those Pokemon into Platinum, we go to Pal Park on Route 221 south of San Gem Town. You can only get access to this post game, and they let you do the catching show, and you just go and find your Pokemon in the area, and you catch them with Park Balls. Now, they don't keep the Park Balls, they stay in the Pokeball they were originally caught in, so it's Pokeballs for us. And after that, you get a little score and a random berry, and then they put your Pokemon in your PC, which you do have to save. So here is our first set of Pokemon from Hoenn. It's our Tricos and our Torchics. But as you can see here, when we try to do this again, it tells us that you can only migrate Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance once a day. But the workaround for this is pretty simple. You just have to remove your GBA cartridge from the slot and swap it with a different GBA cartridge. Then set your date on your DS 1 day forward, and then attempt to migrate from the other game. It'll tell you you're either using a different DS or the game clock has been altered. It'll ask you if you want to adjust the game clock properly, and when you hit yes, it'll make the adjustments. Then all you do is swap your games back out to the game you want to migrate from, and it'll let you migrate 6 more Pokemon. It's pretty tedious, but if you only have the Sinnoh games to migrate from, it's a way better option than waiting 24 hours each time. For the second set, we're gonna migrate our last 6 Pokemon, being Rayquaza, Jirachi, and then the 4 Deoxys. After catching all these Pokemon in Pal Park, we then have the option to change Deoxys' form. In Generation 3, Deoxys' form is based on the game it is currently in. So if Deoxys is in either Ruby, Sapphire, Coliseum, or XD Gale of Darkness, it'll be normal form. If it is in Fire Red, it'll be the attack form. If it is in Leaf Green, it'll be the defense form. And if it is in Emerald, it'll be the speed form. Now, obviously, we can't have our full living dex with all those forms being mismatched, but once you send them into Generation 4, it all reverts them to the normal form, and then you can change their forms. By going to the right in Veilstone City with a Deoxys in your party, you can interact with these meteorites, and it'll change Deoxys' form. This one over here will change its form to the attack form. The one to the left of that will change it to the defense form. The one at the very top will change it to the speed form, and the one in the middle will change it back to the normal form if you want that. Now, we do have that exploit in order to migrate as many Pokemon as we want in the same day in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, but to make this a little quicker, we're gonna migrate the rest of our Pokemon into Heart Gold version. In Heart Gold Soul Silver, there's no limit on how many Pokemon you can migrate a day, so you can just do it a lot more efficiently. All you have to do is go to Fuchsia City, and in replace of the Kanto Safari Zone, they added Pal Park, and it works exactly the same as it does in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So we grab our 6 Pokemon, and we go and find them in the Pal Park to catch them with the Park Balls. Just keep in mind that you want to always have a Pokemon with Surf in your party, as they won't stop you from doing the catching show if you don't have a Pokemon with Surf in your party, and sometimes you just can't catch every Pokemon, so you'll have to redo it after going back and getting a Surf Pokemon, so it's kind of annoying. Just make sure you have a Surf Pokemon in your party so you'll always be able to catch any Pokemon in Pal Park at any time. After that, we got every single Pokemon in our Heart Gold version, and it's time to send them into Generation 5. For this one, I'm using Pokemon Black version 2, and in order to send Pokemon up from Generation 4 to 5, you do need 2 DS systems or 3DS systems. It works on either one. You go to the Poke Transfer Lab, which is to the left of either Black City or White Forest, depending on what version you are in, and you just talk to this guy, and he sets you up to migrate Pokemon. All you gotta do is on your other system that has the Gen 4 game installed, you gotta go to DS Download Play and connect to the Poke Transfer from Generation 5. Just like Generation 4, you can only do 6 Pokemon at a time, and you have to play this little mini game in order to migrate your Pokemon. But what's nice about this one is that not only is the mini game significantly faster than finding your Pokemon and catching them in Pal Park, but you also don't get kicked out after migrating Pokemon, so you can actually do all of your Pokemon at once. You just have to do the 6 at a time. After that, we ended up getting all of our Generation 3 Pokemon into Generation 5, and from here, it's a lot easier to migrate. We just go into Poke Transporter on our 3DS. We select what game we want to migrate from, being the Black 2 cartridge that I'm using, and it just grabs every Pokemon from your Box 1 in Black 2 and sends them into Pokemon Bank. From here, we just put all the Pokemon from the transport box into our Pokemon Bank. And I will say the one quirk with this is that it has to be sent in from Box 1 of your PC. So In order to do every box, you have to then go back into your Generation 5 game, move the next box over to box 1, and then go back into PokeTransporter. And then after every time you send in from PokeTransporter, you then have to swap your cartridges out for a Gen 6 or 7 cartridge in order to organize your boxes in Pokemon Bank, so that can get a bit tedious, but ultimately it's way faster. While we're in X and Y, I figured I'd do an evolution to make it a lot easier. This evolution being Feebas into Milotic. Now normally, in order to evolve Feebas, you gotta give it max beauty, which is by feeding it the beauty stat with all of the either Pokeblocks or Poffins or whatever the food product is in that region. And once it gets the max beauty stat, you level it up once and it evolves. Easier way is starting in Generation 5, they added a new item called the Prism Scale, and you just give that as a held item to Feebas and trade it, and it'll evolve into Milotic. Luckily in X and Y, there's a guaranteed Prism Scale you can get every save file, so we grabbed those on our X and Y copies and just traded these Feebas over to evolve both of them into Milotic, for the gender difference being the longer eyebrows, I think, on the female one. I guess they're the eyebrows, right? Then after that, we got all of our Pokemon into Pokemon Bank, and it's time to send them into Pokemon Home. To send them into Pokemon Home, all you have to do is select the Move to Pokemon Home option on your Pokemon Bank, and then in Pokemon Home, there's an option to move from the 3DS. It'll give you a specific moving key that you need to type in on your 3DS. On your 3DS, you select what boxes you want to send up and then type in the same moving key. It's on the bottom screen, so you can't see me typing it in, but I'm typing in the moving key that's shown on my Switch. And at that point, it tells you the moving key has been confirmed, and then you just have to wait a few minutes before it lets you enter Pokemon Home and send your Pokemon in. At this point, I just organized my Pokemon into Pokemon Home in the correct spots, and now it's time to do most of the evolutions. To start, we grabbed everything that was capable of moving into Sword and Shield and using a bunch of rare candies that I have from my Pokeball Plus in order to evolve all of these Pokemon. So we evolved Trico into Grovyle and Grovyle into Sceptile, and then we evolved Torchic into Combuskin with the gender difference being the smaller head feathers, and Combuskin into Blaziken with the gender difference being, again, the smaller head feathers. Then we evolved Mudkip into Marshtomp and Marshtomp into Swampert. Then we evolved Lotad into Lombre and Lombre into Ludicolo with the gender difference being the different sized zigzag lines. Then we evolved Seedot into Nuzleaf with the gender difference being the larger head leaf on the male one. Then we evolved the Nuzleafs into Shifttrees with the gender difference being the larger hand leaves on the male one. We then evolved Wingull into Pelipper and Ralts into Kirlia and then Gardevoir. We evolved Loudred into Exploud. We evolved one of our Aerons into Lairon and then our Lairon into Aggron. Trapinch into Vibrava and then Vibrava into Flygon. Corphish into Crawdaunt. Laleep into Cradily and Anorith into Armaldo. Pay no attention to the name that the Anorith is. Then we evolved Duskull into Dusclops. Snorunt into Glalie. Spheal into Celio and Celio into Walrein. And Bagon into Shelgon and Shelgon into Salamence. Then we evolved our Metang into Metang. And then we evolved Metang into Metagross. At this point, since Scarlet and Violet home compatibility is out, we then sent a handful of Pokemon into that game because it's a lot easier to evolve than in BDSP. So we evolved our Surskit into Masquerain. We evolved Shroomish into Breloom, Slackoth into Vigoroth, and Vigoroth into Slacking. We got both Gulpins with the gender difference into Swalot with the gender difference. The feather on the Gulpin is bigger on the male, and the mustache on the Swalot is bigger as the male. Then we evolved both Nummels into Camerupt with the gender difference. For both Nummel and Camerupt, the female has a larger hump. Then we evolved Spoink into Grumpig, and then we evolved Cacnea into Cacturn with the gender difference. This being the smaller diamonds on the male and the large diamond on the female one. Then the last two Pokemon we had to evolve in BDSP was Poochyena into Mightyena, which was very easy because it's only level 18 it evolves. And then we evolved Skitty into Delcatty, which we had to use a Moonstone on, which honestly, I completely forgot that this thing evolved via Moonstone. I thought it was a level up evolution. After this, there's only two Pokemon we have left to catch, and that is the Galarian Zigzagoon line. So we got a Galarian Zigzagoon in Sword and Shield. Caught it very easily with a Pokeball. And then in Bridgefield, there's always a guaranteed strong spawn Linoon that you can find no matter the weather. This one was a bit harder to catch because we couldn't put it to sleep due to the misty terrain that was in play, but we ended up catching it in the end anyway. And with that, we moved our last two Pokemon into Pokemon Home, and we have our full living dex up to date. So this is my full living dex up into Generation 3. Original games only, all caught in Pokeballs. And yeah, that is pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video or you are enjoying the series so far, please make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And yeah, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, ring those notification bells, all that good stuff. Be sure to join the domiNATION, and I will see you in the next video.